Metal Gear Solid is the first game in the Metal Gear Solid series and is the third game in the Metal Gear franchise and is the starting point of the legendary MGS tetralogy. Did you know that was a word? Tetralogy. I didn't, and I think it's a pretty weird one. Anyways, Metal Gear Solid sees you playing as the legendary Solid Snake on a top secret mission to take down a terrorist group that has a highly dangerous weapon that can both change and destroy the world as we know it. Metal Gear. That's the basic plot, and the synopsis is pretty simple. You'd think this game is balls to the walls, zany and serious and dramatic, but at the start, it's very tame. At times when I was playing, I began to question how this would somehow lead to this.
Who are you?
Don't get me wrong, the game was fun and the gameplay was interesting and I was very impressed. The hard part about going back and playing older games is that the difficulty is sorta insane. And not in a fun way most of the time, but in a way of, yeah, that's complete total fucking bullshit. Looking at you, OG Super Mario 64. I love you, but you know what you did, you bitch.
Mamma mia!
Anyways, when playing Metal Gear Solid, I didn't have an issue with the difficulty. Don't get me wrong, the game is hard and I did struggle a lot, but it all just felt so rewarding, even when what I was struggling with really was just bullshit. It was really fun making progress in the game. But other than that, it didn't really feel like Metal Gear to me. It had the great gameplay and the dialogue and the great codec conversations with all the quirky and fun characters, but something was off. Maybe it was the MGR brain rot I've had the past 3 years. This is what I was thinking until I made it to the iconic boss fight with Psycho Mantis. Something felt very different about this boss. Very different. Don't get it wrong, the Revolver Ocelot boss is super fun and I loved it even if I struggled a bit, but it ain't anything special. From the moment I entered Mantis's room, I was feeling so many things. The most prominent of the feelings being fear. Fun liquid fact, I find certain types of office spaces creepy and uncomfortable. Back when I was much younger and staying in Texas with my aunt for a bit, I had to go to her place of work since I wasn't allowed to be left home alone. That building, her office, all of it made me just so uncomfortable. That memory affected how I viewed this room, especially since a lot of the game's somewhat scarier events and aspects come from the character of Psycho Mantis. He is definitely a threat and he has such a menacing presence, and it shows in his boss fight. He is a tall, lengthy man that is very thin, and he isn't super loud or as bombastic as the other bosses. At least until his fight starts. He's a tough guy who's willing to do some messed up shit, like forcing Meryl to commit suicide. Hold up. Here on YouTube, I'm not allowed to say that word because Joe Biden controls YouTube using his homosexual 5G waves from his microwave, and he wants specifically me to suffer. I will miss you all. Mantis has a range of attacks, but all of them are projectile-based ones. He throws statues, vases, chairs, energy orbs, and photos. They're difficult to avoid at first, but eventually you catch the hang of it. Once you defeat him and he begins to fade away, however, that's when the tone of the game and the scene changes a bit. At least, it does for me. This monster of a man lies down on the floor, accepting his death, saying his final words. His words, while big and at times confusing, are also beautiful and comforting in a way.
Why are you telling me this?
I can read people's minds. In my lifetime, I have read the pasts, presents, and futures of thousands upon thousands of men and women.
Oh, gross.
And each mind that I peered into was stuffed with the same single object of obsession. That selfish and atavistic desire to pass on one's seed.
He shares his story about how he burned down his village to bury the past. He also shares his real thoughts on Snake and who he is as a person and as a soldier. And then Mantis says his last words and uses his powers one more time on this earth. Not to kill or hurt anything, but to help someone. To help Snake.
This is the first time I've ever used my power to help someone. It's strange. It feels kind of nice.
It's a really well put together scene and is really beautiful. It's not perfect, but something about it just resonates with me. I like it a lot. After this, the game begins to feel a lot like Metal Gear. Feels like what Metal Gear is known for. This is when the real game begins. Everything from here on out is perfect. Besides that god-awful button mashing bit. That shit was ass. All the bosses are fun, especially the Raven and Sniper Wolf ones. The plot twists begin to reveal themselves and unravel, creating a satisfying story. The main villain, Liquid, gets more screen time and explains his motive without it being directly on the nose and without it sounding pretentious or annoying. He wants to fulfill Big Boss's dying wish, which was to have a world where soldiers are honored and respected, which is a misinterpretation of the OG boss's will. But that's a story for a different day. He also wants to get revenge on the world and Snake for how he was treated. This isn't directly stated, but is alluded to in his dialogue. He of course says that he hates that Snake took his birthright and hates that he's the inferior son of Big Boss, but he cares about it a bit too much, I think. He's allowing his genes to decide his fate. The fate that ends in him dying to his brother. Technically to the fox die in his blood. His weaker genes fail him, except that isn't the case at all. After the credits and a call between Ocelot and the fucking President of the United States of America, it's revealed that Snake is actually the inferior clone of Big Boss. Liquid died for nothing. He died a slave to his own mindset, to his own view of the world, to his own hatred. The main theme of the story is that your genes don't matter. Where you come from doesn't matter. We all decide our own fate. It's pretty basic, and I'd even say overused. Don't get me wrong, overused themes aren't a bad thing. I'm not gonna sit here and try and tell writers that they shouldn't write about a certain thing, but to say the least, the theme of where you come from doesn't matter has been done a lot. But something feels off about this. Something feels special. I struggle to put my finger on it, but the way Metal Gear portrays this is just perfect. The game has a set-in-stone happy ending where if you don't play the other games, the main protagonists end up being happy forever. That's a sweet ending to have and enforces the themes even more. The political commentary still hits pretty hard too. The truth about the weapons we use and what the government has up its sleeves when it comes to this, and the secrets it holds from us, the people, including soldiers, is still a massive issue. And the fear of a massive war occurring is also super prevalent, especially the past few years. Back when I was younger, I was scared of nuclear annihilation. The shit between America and North Korea really scared me. I didn't understand it all, but it just got to me. And because of that, the plot of Metal Gear and what it has to say about the world and the way weapons are used, it hits me on a different level. It might be old, it might be a little rough in some areas.
Fuck you.
But I have nothing but love for this game, and everything it stands for, and the precedents it would create in the gaming industry, and for that, I think it deserves a lot of love. I love Metal Gear Solid and everything it would create. This is not the Metal Gear Solid I remember.